Hey everybody, my name is Sean. I'm over at the shop today and it is going to be a gorgeous day. So I thought it was the perfect opportunity to take some time, give a progress update on both of my Legends car projects. This is the Volunteer and this is the Petty Chevy. And this is New Yankee Auto System. I wanted to make this video for any new subscribers or new followers to the channel, or any old subscribers who maybe just don't know the backstory, or if they care to know. So, about a year ago, in May of 2022, I decided I was finally going to open up my own business. And I wanted to stay in something that was automotive, but I wanted to be in something that was unique. I've always wanted to build really cool stuff and really cool cars, instead of just always repairing everything. I found it was very hard to get into a fabrication shop or a hot rod shop without any previous experience, or without having to restart everything in my career. So I hopped onto Facebook Marketplace and I started searching, and there was one thing that came in the back of my mind from something I'd seen a year or two previous to 2022. I had seen a street legal Legends car for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and I really wanted to buy it. Now, the reason why I decided to go with Legends cars, I did a quick search in my area, and I knew where some were. I had seen them before, but I kind of forgotten about them. There was a local Legends car dealer in Bristol, Tennessee, that had 8 Legends cars for sale. 8. I got 2 of them. The Volunteer car, which is a 1934 Ford-bodied sedan, Vicky style, and the Petty Chevy, which is a 1937 Chevy sedan that was stickered up with the number 43. It's in Petty blue. It fits. It's a fitting name for it. And what I decided I was going to do with these cars is, if one person had already made them, at least one of them street legal, I figured that there had to be the potential for me to make a couple of them street legal. So the biggest thing about the Legends cars is they need to be converted and have all the appropriate lighting equipment, all of the appropriate things that you would need to see of a vehicle on the street. Headlights, taillights, turn signals, hazard functionality. As far as any kind of wipers or safety windshields, I'm still unsure on that. I do still have to get both cars to an inspection site and see exactly what they're going to tick off yes and tick off no on the cars. Now, as for the Volunteer car, what I decided I was going to do with that was, originally, this was going to be the car that I was going to do a bunch of custom stuff to. I wanted to throw a whole bunch of LED lights on it, a big wing on it. I just wanted to do custom stuff. I wanted it to look different than it was, but I liked that it was a 1934 bodied car. So with that being said, I turned my attention from making this the custom car to being the first car I was going to present to a customer. I do have a potential buyer on the car, but nothing is set in concrete, and remember that both of these cars are going to be for sale when they are done. This is a business. I really like doing cool stuff, but I'm trying to do this for a living. So that in mind, I decided that this was going to be the customer car, and I wasn't going to do anything that wasn't actually necessary for the car. So the plan was to only focus on things that were necessary to actually make the car street legal. So what I ended up following through on and going down a large rabbit hole on is the research and finding what components I could use to actually accomplish that goal. I did find eventually that there was a lighting control kit that I could modify that gave me everything of the functionality that I needed. And I was looking for something that operated much like something that you would see from like post 1990, or a modern day car, if you will. So I was looking for a multi-function switch that had integrated left and right turn signal capability on a stalk on the lever. I was looking to try and find something that had an integrated horn to the system, and I was also looking for something that had brake lights and hazard light functionality as well. And eventually I did find that. I did have to modify the kit at first. The main wiring harness did not fit the car, as was to be expected. But my whole game plan was I wanted to get something that could serve as a template so that I could make my own harnesses very specific and very close to fitting almost every single one of these cars. I did end up finding some 5 3/4-inch LED headlights that have all of the functionality that I needed though. The bonus for this car is this actually has high and low beam functionality as well, whereas my harnesses are only going to have low beam. The reason for that is it's just going to be too costly to put towards a kit for everyone else to have high and low beam functionality all the time. But what I was able to do and find for this car was some LED headlights that have integrated turn signals, low and high beam, and they also have daytime running lights, but that's not hooked up for this car. It was just too much to worry about, and it would have taken way too much modification to really be something that was worth it. As far as the taillights, I went with LED Zephyr style teardrop taillights. I've got those on there. I feel like they fit the period correct of the car, but are still modern and still function a little bit brighter. They also have integrated turn signals in them as well, so I don't have multiple lights all over the back of the car, just for a couple of different purposes. The rest of the car has been coming along great. I had to do some things that were to be expected of a car that has sat for over a decade and was most likely driven hard, put away wet. So a couple of the items that I had to focus on, just because it was set up by someone else and there were a lot of things that I saw that just weren't going to work for the quality of build that I'm looking for. Is what I'm building perfect? No, but it's better than I found it, and I think it's of a standard that's a little more acceptable than just something that was a race car that someone put together and it happened to work. There's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't work for my build style. So the other items that needed to be addressed on the Volunteer car were, it needs a slave cylinder, it needs a master cylinder, it needed both rear wheel cylinders, it needed the front calipers to be refurbished. I wouldn't necessarily say rebuilt because I didn't replace the pistons that were inside of there. I replaced all of the seals, I cleaned everything out, I flushed it out. I've got that back on the car and the front of the brakes are working. Now the rear of the brakes currently have not been bled out all the way. I've been having some issues trying to get those to gravity bleed, or even bleed out with my brake flush machine. So I'm gonna wait until I can get someone to help me pressure bleed those. That may be an indication that there may be a problem with the master cylinder for the brakes, which would be another component that needs to be replaced. But if I have to do it, I'd rather see that it's replaced and it should be problem-free operation from there. I did add a kill switch into the system just so that anything that could possibly draw on the battery is set up that once you turn that kill switch off, it doesn't. Hopefully that'll keep any kind of battery draw away from the vehicle. I'm a lot further in getting this car ready for a customer than I am for Petty Chevy. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna borrow some parts, get it sold, and hopefully once I get it sold, that'll mean that I can just buy what I need for that car. Like I said, there was some wiring that needed tidied up. The back of the car needed some wiring to be sorted better for my standards. I had to get my wiring harness in there. I also had to reposition the fuel pump because I just didn't like how it was in there. It was creating a large pinch point in the fuel line where it came out of the tank. So I've corrected that. And again, that's not discredit to anybody else. It just didn't meet my standards and I felt that I had to fix it. So there's a lot that's been done to this car, and this car is very close to being ready for the customer. I still have to tackle the master cylinder. I still have to get all of the brakes bled out. I do have to redo my license plate bracket on the rear bumper because my welds on half of it didn't stick. I was having problems with my welding machine that day. It's just a thing that I'm gonna have to fix. So I have to get this car pretty much sorted. I have to get it so that it starts every time, stays running, and reliably starts. But I feel I'm very close on that, and this car is actually going to be for sale very shortly. I'm going to hope within the next 2 or 3 months. So keep your eyes peeled for the Volunteer car when it comes up for sale. Now onto the Petty Chevy. The Petty Chevy was in a bit better condition than the Volunteer, but there were a lot of things about this car that were in worse condition than the Volunteer. The Volunteer, when I got it, at least I knew that it would start. I was there when the gentleman, obviously I was there when the gentleman sold it to me, but he had the engine running, so I knew that it could run. The Volunteer car was said to be able to run, but it was going to need some things. The carburetors weren't installed on the car. It needed a fuel pump. I found a bunch of other mechanical stuff that needed to be sorted out. I had some issues with my radius rods. They didn't want to turn correctly, so I had to replace those. And clearly all the other modifications that I've done to the car so far, such as the headlights that I decided eventually worked best behind the front grille because it gave me that kind of techno cyber look that I was looking for. I also kind of nicknamed this as the techno rat rod because this car, I'm kind of just taking anything that I can, make it work for what I need it to do. So that's kind of expanding my fabrication skills a bit, and it's not allowing me to be limited to, it just has to be this. If I can think about it, I'm gonna try it. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna have to try something else. The most notable modification that anyone can see is the front bumper. Now, the Volunteer has the regular rounded Legend style front bumper on it. This bumper actually came from a takeoff on, it was either a Jeep Wrangler or a Jeep Gladiator. Ultimately, after a certain amount of time, I think they're pretty much the same bumper. But what I ended up having to do was cut this bumper down. I took out a 10.5-inch section from the middle, pulled that in, welded it back together, made sure that it landed where I wanted it to. Then I ended up hard mounting a bumper support to it, but I can still unbolt the rest of this bumper and take it off. So that presented a bit of a challenge, but I ended up getting there in the end. And what I started with as far as lighting was these 6-inch LED floodlights that I now have mounted on the bumper for now. These provide a really good lighting pattern. These are very bright. These headlights are there to be called headlights, but they're basically going to be like a daytime running light. These are probably going to be the best solution for the driving lights that I have because they are low enough. They can be pitched upwards and turned sideways as they need to be. Hopefully they're not going to be high enough to blind someone on the road, but ultimately I think both of these cars are going to be driven mostly in the daytime. But I did want to make sure that I had at least appropriate lighting if I could. As far as the rest of the car, the modifications continue. I have done a lot of work to the interior to try and get the controls set up in a way that kind of presents as that futuristic multiple buttons and push on a control panel, almost spaceship-y. I don't want to say fighter jet-like, but kind of just a futuristic spaceship. You've got to kind of push every button to make it work. It seems kind of fun, and it seems to be working out for me right now. The other thing that I did was take a lot of the wiring and electrical components that were in the back of the car, mounted directly to a post on the battery, such as the starter solenoid, which also gives you your ignition pickup and everything else. I've moved that to the interior of the cabin. I think that's going to give it a lot better serviceability. You just have to reach inside the passenger side, if you will, or the right side of the vehicle to be able to access everything underneath of the dash. So I've moved my starter solenoid, my bus bar, and my control panel all into the cabin of the vehicle, along with an additional long anchor turn and push style kill switch. I like that switch a lot better. That also gave me the availability to plug up a hole that was already there and repurpose it. For the rest of the car, the headlights I've already talked about, the rear tail lights, I'm not absolutely certain I'm finished with those. I tried to mold in a plastic housing onto the fenders. It works okay. I mean, it works fine. It looks okay, but it would still need to be finished, and I don't know if I have the skills to finish fiberglassing that shape in and make it work with something that's actually going to be what I'm looking for. I just don't know if I have that skill set yet, or if I'm ready to challenge myself. So I do have some extra rear fenders and some extra rear lights that I may use and change the style up, but this ultimately is the custom car. This is where I'm doing all of my custom stuff too. I've got a rear spoiler from a Honda SUV that I'm going to use as a mid-wing. Might not be everybody's taste, but I think it'll look good. I've also got an idea for floating front fenders on the vehicle because I always liked that look. When the Plymouth Prowler came out and brought that hot rod floating fender look to a production car, that really gave me notice of it, and that's something that I really want to make happen for this car. So that's actually one of the things that I'm probably going to be working on today. But as far as the Petty Chevy, that's gotten a lot of progress done to it as well. It still has a ways to go before I'm comfortable saying that it's done. But I need to tell myself that just because it's a custom build doesn't mean that I can keep going back and changing things. I have to be done with the car at some point. But ultimately, I plan on keeping this car at least until the end of April and hope to see this sold by early summer. This car is for sale as well. Keep in mind, both cars will be for sale when they are finished. Now, I can't guarantee that if I get this registered and titled and street legal in Tennessee, that it's going to be street legal in your state or your municipality. The one big question that everyone comes up with in the Street Legal Legends community on Facebook, or just in general, is, what do you have to do to make it street legal? I can't answer that for you. The thing is, every municipality is different. Now, it seems it might be easier to do in Tennessee, and hopefully, if I can do that and get them titled and registered in Tennessee, that should mean that the hardest part of getting it to your municipality and titled and registered should be taken care of. Because if you've already got a title and it's already been registered, it should just be able to transfer just like that. But if your state or your municipality has an inspection code, keep in mind, I can't predict where this car is going to go and build it to those standards. So there will still be some work that's needed to be done based on what kind of inspection or how you classify the car and you're used to it, of how it's going to work for my potential buyers. Also, that being said, I am willing and looking forward to trying to build these cars for clients. I would like to keep up with doing the Legends cars. I would like to be able to get to the point where I can buy new chassis, new engines, new drivetrains, and figure out a game plan to be able to go from A to Z on the cars, all in-house. I would love to be able to do that. So if you find that you're a potential client or you want to be a potential client, make sure to reach out to us at newyankeeautosystems@gmail.com. Get into contact with us. It is just me. I will be in contact with you, and I have absolutely no quarrels going over with how you would like to have the car done. Or if you have some ideas that maybe I haven't thought of that you want to bring to fruition, and you want to give someone a chance to actually do that for you, hit me up. Now, as far as this being kind of a channel update, I do have a bunch more ideas for these cars. I would love to do a coupe. I would love to do a couple more sedans. I really like the 34 Ford Vicky's sedans. I really like that body style. I would like to do that a couple more times. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Chevy sedan. I like the way that they work too. I like the back slope of it too. But ultimately, moving forward, I would like to build more sedans. I would like to build some Ford coupes. I don't particularly find myself as a Ford, Chevy guy in this world. In the rest of the world, I prefer Mopars, but that's because I just like unique, weird things that shouldn't work, but they do. So if you find yourself as wanting to have one of these cars built, reach out to me. Let's get in touch. Let's start a discussion and see what I might be able to do for you in the future. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, New Yankee Auto Systems, and follow us on all of our socials. For now, see you on the next one.